Welcome to I Rise Conversations with Joan. Welcome to I Rise Conversations with Joan, where we explore the stories and strategies of people who have overcome adversity and achieved success in their lives. My name is Joan Nwosu, and I'm the award-winning author of the book I Rise, The 10 Secrets to Getting Up When Life Knocks You Down. Today, we're thrilled to have with us Maureen Petersen as our guest. She's an award-winning leader, life coach, author, and physician specializing in pediatrics and allergist immunology. She has dedicated her career to caring for patients with acute and chronic health problems, and her passion for storytelling has helped her to teach many, many young physicians the art of medicine. As a military veteran and a mother of 3 amazing children, including one with long-term health issues, she has firsthand experience with the challenges parents face when caring for a chronically ill child. She's an accomplished life coach who helps parents regain control of their lives and find fulfillment despite their child's health needs. Welcome, Maureen, to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love talking about this, so I appreciate you having me on your show and sharing what words I have to say about the topic with your audience.
Absolutely. This is such a key topic and not one that a lot of people talk about. And I'm sure that a lot of my listeners will really benefit from this. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Where did you start from? How did you get into pediatrics, for instance, and now to becoming a life coach?
Right. So I will say my first job, first and foremost, is being a mom. I love being a mom, but being a mom came second in my progression of becoming a physician. So I entered the world of medicine through the Army, actually, and had always wanted to be a doctor, and was very excited to be able to graduate medical school because it was a childhood dream of mine, and then go on to becoming a mom was like awesome because, again, I can remember being a young kid and playing the game of life where you like have a little car and you go around the board and you collect little peg children. And I would try to collect as many kids as I could in my little car. And always like cross my fingers that I would get the occupation card that said I was a doctor. And so those two things, like I thought I was on top of the world when I was able to both be a mom and a doctor. The world of life coaching came much later. During my time being a pediatrician, my daughter, who's the second of my children, was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a type of cancer of the adrenal gland. And she was 6 months old at the time. I knew what that meant because I had taken care of patients who had that same type of cancer, and my world crumbled. And I became overwhelmed. I became worried. I felt guilty that it was her and not me. All the things. Got over that hurdle with her going through surgery, chemotherapy, the whole works. Thought all this bad stuff was behind me. Then fast forward 12 years later. So now she was 12 years old, had been getting, good health checks along the way. And I became the physician to diagnose her with type 1 diabetes. And again, my world kind of came crashing down, and I found myself living for my daughter. And every thought was about my daughter. And I, in the process, was kind of losing myself. I was not happy. I wasn't sleeping. It was every day was just worried about her blood sugars, about, how she was going to manage, et cetera. Found life coaching, and it changed me personally. I then became a certified life coach, and it changed the way that I could approach patients in clinic. And so now I've kind of dedicated my career to really helping parents who have chronically ill kids, so that they can lead a very full life despite their kids' health challenges.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a heavy story, because you went through it the first time and then a second time. And I'm sure that a lot of parents who are going through it can relate with the guilt that you feel, that your world becomes consumed by it. Your world comes crashing down. And a lot of people, maybe at that early stage where their world has just crumbled and they really don't know how to move forward. So with your life coaching, really helping parents who are facing similar situations to walk through this, I think is really phenomenal, because like I said, not a lot of people talk about it. And the reality is that a lot of parents are going through something similar where they have children with chronic illnesses. So tell us a little bit about your own journey. So I know you said you started with feeling guilty. Why her? Why not me? What were the steps, or what were the phases that you went through? How did that shape your life? And how did you get your transformation? How did you get to this point where now you're helping other people live a fulfilled life?
Right. And it's tough for me to say about like stages, because I would tell you that every day was a little bit different, meaning that, on one day I would feel totally guilty. And then the next day I'm being faced with like putting a nasogastric tube in her to help give her nutrition and feed her. And I was feeling overwhelmed. And like the next day, I would feel like we would be waiting for lab results and I would be terrified. And that was the emotion that was driving me. So I'm not sure that I had like phases, because it was all jumbled depending on what was going on. I will say, when she had cancer, and I had taken a leave of absence from medicine at the time to help take care of her. And when I went back to work after she finished her last round of chemo and got a clean bill of health, I can remember going back to work, and in the pediatrics clinic was taking care of patients who had ear infections and had a rash and had a runny nose. And I would leave at the end of the day and feel so resentful,
Mm.
because I would think to myself, like, gosh, these parents don't understand what I just went through. And like, how dare them like bring their child to me when their child just has something simple. And I feel lucky that I had enough insight and enough knowledge that living in this world of resentment is not a healthy thing. I would have never been able to spend years in medicine had I lived every day feeling resentful. Mm-hmm. And it was really figuring out that, you know what, I shouldn't be resentful. I should be grateful that I had the power and the tools to make these parents stop worrying about their child. I wish that somebody could have made me stop worrying about my child. So, you know what? If they're worried, like bring them into my clinic. Let me see them so that I can make sure that they're going to sleep well at night. And that kind of change of thought processes really helped with making me feel grateful for the knowledge and skills that I had, rather than resentful for towards someone who had no idea what I just went through. Here I was like angry, and they had no clue. Like, why should they be angry?
Yeah, I love that. Being grateful rather than resentful, and everybody handles adversity differently. Like you had the tools, you could almost fix yourself. You could go inward and figure out what was wrong and move things around, turn things around to be able to get your transformation where now you can help other people. But for a lot of people, they might still be in those early phases of guilt or anger or deep resentment for other people. Or you're having it easy, or you have only one child, I have three, or whatever. The child only has a flu or a runny nose, and I'm having to deal with these heavy things. So I think it's always great when someone who's been through exactly what you've been through, but not just that you've been through it, you have the tools,
Right.
work within medicine to be able to help a lot of people. And you're grateful you identified that, you were able to step into your purpose and use that, because every tool or skill set that we have and experience, really, it's for us to be able to help other people. And you're using that gift today to really, really help a lot of people. So another thing I want to touch on is, because I do know families, or I know parents who have similar issues, and everybody handles it differently. No judgment, but I've seen parents who would rather not talk about it. They don't think that anybody understands, so they just suffer in silence. They don't seek any help. And I've even experienced the family where they hide the child from the rest of the world. So the child doesn't get to go anywhere. The child is homeschooled, if schooled at all, and they just, in their defense, they think they're protecting the child, but now they've secluded the child from the rest of the world. It's not easy. I don't know that there's a right way or wrong way, but why would some parents take that sort of extreme approach, in your opinion?
Well, because I think that it all goes back to our own thoughts and what thoughts our brain is producing. So our brain's job is to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And so our brain will give us thoughts that it thinks is going to help keep us safe. Well, staying in the status quo keeps us safe. Yeah. So our brain is giving us these thoughts of, it's too hard to go out into public, or people are going to think I'm a bad parent if my autistic child has a temper tantrum out in the grocery store. Or, so they're going to stare at me if my child has a seizure when we're out in public. And so all of those thoughts are not true. We can't prove any of those thoughts, but it's our brain's way of making us really believe that they are true, so that we stay in this kind of safe world of never going out to face others and put us at potential risk. But I would say that the thoughts that hold us back are really holding us back from not the opportunity to be hurt, but they're holding us back from the opportunity to have something great happen. Because it's when we venture out of our comfort zone that great things occur in our lives. And it just like going and having the example of the autistic child, like that could be a great adventure at the grocery store. And it could be a wonderful bonding experience for that child and the parent. And nothing could go wrong in the grocery store, but you're not allowing yourself that opportunity. So it's avoiding the possibility of a risk is withholding your ability to have great things happen in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all around fear of the
It
unknown.
is all, yes. Well, and
And we're in a cold
that's the
world, let's
other,
be honest. We do live
yeah,
in a cold world where people would look at you funny and people don't want to have to deal with that.
yeah. But, and the, you said it's all about fear, and it is. So emotions
Yeah.
are what drives our actions, and it's the thoughts that are leading to these emotions. So it is the fear that is causing us to have inactions from these thoughts of, oh, people are going to stare at me. But, I heard this amazing quote today, and I don't know who said it. I saw it on social media, but it was, it has to do with, bees don't tell flies that honey tastes better than poo. So why do we care what other people think about us?
Yeah, that's
Like, what, people aren't thinking about us all the time.
that is
So having those thoughts that other people are staring at us, or other people are whispering about our child, having those things hold us back from living a full life is sad to me, because you're missing out on the opportunities to taste honey, and be like a bee, and don't, it doesn't matter. They're not telling
matter.
the flies about it. So, like, just live your honey life.
Live your honey life. I love
Yeah,
that. Be a bee, live your honey life.
that's right.
Okay, so that's just to encourage anyone who's listening. If you've been hiding, or you feel like you're alone, or you're too afraid to venture out, just leave your honey life. Just go out there.
Yes.
Don't miss out on the opportunities for great experiences for both you
Right.
and your child. You
Right.
you never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you did start off telling us how when you were going through your experience and you had to take a leave of absence and your whole world, your whole life was consumed by what you were going through. What advice or what strategies can you share with listeners who might be in that phase where now they can't think of anything else? They wake up, they're thinking about the child, they go to bed all day, every day. It's that singular focus on the child. And now they're not living their own lives. They don't even care about themselves anymore. It's just 100% focused on the child. How
Right.
can they step away from that?
And so, you had asked me about, like, well, what phases did I go through, right? And the certainly I did not become this, like, confident
Mm.
person overnight, where I went from my world crumbling to, like, being able to, like, manage a career, along with manage being a mom to two other kids besides my daughter, along with, everything else that I want to do for myself. That didn't happen overnight. And so my first thing that I would say with the question that you ask is, it's not going to change quickly, but unless you start doing something to change, it's you are choosing to continue to live in this world that is being consumed by your child. So the first step in it is making the decision that you want it to change. Once you make a decision that, like, look, I don't want to live like this, that I want to do something, that then it's going to take some practice, because just like any other skill, our brain has been creating all of this noise that creates all of these emotions that are causing us to our lives to be led by fear and guilt and overwhelm. And it's going to take some practice on undoing that mess. And it can be done, but just like any other skill, you're not going to get there unless you decide you want it changed, and then to practice. And what I mean by practicing is things like, you know, getting a babysitter. Some parents with chronically ill kids are terrified to leave their child with someone who's not them. Okay, well, getting to that point of having a babysitter for an evening can be done in phases. So, like the first phase is having a sitter come over while you are there in the house and not leaving with, you know, but having the sitter kind of shadow what you're doing.
Mhm.
And then the next phase may be something like the sitter's there, but you're at the next door neighbor's house, just so that you're close, but aren't physically in the same place. And then once you get comfortable with that, then having the sitter be there for a half hour so you can run to the grocery store, and then an hour. So it's not going to be, you know, from A to Z overnight. It takes all of those steps in between to get there.
Yeah. I think that's such a simple but very practical exercise that you've, or challenge that you've given to a lot of moms, because again, that guilt that this is my child, this is my doing, I need to be responsible, I need to be with the child 24/7 is a real one. It's because I do have friends who have, you know, kids, and it's the same. They don't want to leave them alone. They can't trust them with anybody else. They feel like they have to be there all the time. But what you've just described is something simple. They can start. And I love what you said. You have to decide first that you want this. If you don't, or someone is trying to convince you, then you're still going to feel guilty. Then the fear is there.
Right.
Then you're panicking. Then if something goes wrong, you're like, I knew I should never have done this.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So you have to make that decision first, that I want to do this. I want a different life. I want to be able to manage my child, but also go ahead and do the things that I want to do, the things that I was created for. So
Yeah.
I love that example. And
you know, you had mentioned about like the guilt, and the thing I want to remind your audience is that doing things for ourselves when we're parents is so important. And feeling guilty because you have a little me time is so not necessary. It's more necessary to carve out that time to dedicate to yourself, because you will be a better caregiver if you're able to go take a nap for an hour, or go relax for like your body needs it. It's in a similar way what you were talking about at the beginning of the conversation about you know, being isolated and staying inside. Well, connection to people and doing self-care, those two things have been shown to extend somebody's life. So they're just as important as eating healthy and exercising. So connecting and self-care, you should never feel guilty about.
I love that.
But we do. Yeah.
We do. But
we do.
We're learning. We're going to stop today. We're going to start making time for self-care and to connect with other people as well. Okay, so let's talk about your book, Reclaiming Life. What inspired you to write the book? Who is it for? And what is the core message that you want your readers to take away from the book?
Yeah. So I had the idea to write a book years ago. And the reason that I wanted to write a book was because my kids had asked me like, hey, Mom, tell us about this time. And so I wanted to make sure that stories about what happened with my daughter were documented for them and for their kids' kids, etc. As I took on the adventure of writing the book,
because it is,
I quickly realized that I had a very unique perspective because I had been through these two hurdles with my daughter. But then I had also seen and been part of a lot of different hurdles in my medical practice. And I knew that a book could help other parents who had a similar journey as me. But I could make it a little bit easier for them by sharing lessons I had learned. So the book has a subject for each of the chapters, and there's a story about my daughter when she had cancer, a story of when she had diabetes, a story of a patient I took care of, and then lessons about the subject of that chapter. And when I finished the book, of course, like all my family and friends, like were, reading the book, and a very close friend of mine from high school, who does not have children, he knew he was going to have to read it. And he told me afterwards, Maureen, I didn't want to read it because I knew, like, not only do I not have chronically ill kids, I don't even have kids. And he said, but I read it because I am your friend. And I have to tell you, I have given it to so many of my colleagues now, because what you speak about in your book is very important for parents of chronically ill kids, but it's also lessons for parents. It's lessons for grandparents. It's lessons for aunts and uncles and just people in general, like they're life lessons. So the message that I really want to give people through reading it is, regardless of your whether you have kids or not have kids, like, you can lead a very full life by making sure that you pay attention to things like gratitude and celebrate small victories and set goals for yourself and take care of yourself. And so tons of different lessons in the book that I think anyone can get something from it.
That is so beautiful. And I'm sure a lot of people listening now will be thinking, I wish I had that many years ago. Well, now you have the opportunity to have it and sow it into someone else's life as well. Because, like we said, a lot of people are going through this. It's not spoken about enough. And if you have someone who's been through that journey and has learned lessons, why not learn from them rather than feel lost and isolated and not knowing what to do and feeling overwhelmed? We're trying to move away from that overwhelm to a point where you can manage your life and still have a fulfilling life doing the things that you want to do. So congrats.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said it so well. Yes.
Okay. So now let's talk about your life coaching. Because you do work with a lot of parents. So how does your life coaching work? Who are the people that you work with, and what are the programs that you have?
Yeah. So I work with parents who have chronically ill kids, and the type of health challenges that they encounter completely vary. It can be anywhere from diabetes, like my daughter, or having a child who's a cancer survivor, or have something different like ADD or asthma, any kind of chronic illness that causes the parents to become overwhelmed and lose themselves in their focus in life. And the program that I run is a 12-week program that I help parents with building skills like advocating for their child. And with advocating, you need to really grow courage and emotions of confidence. I teach them also how to organize their life, like organizing their time, organizing their child's health information. And then the final thing that we do is work on building a support system. So we talk a lot about relationships and how to build a very healthy system of support where you're not afraid to ask for help, that it's a courageous thing to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help.
Wow, that's such a rich program. And I'm sure that a lot of parents who are going through this can really benefit from that. So there are people that love coaching, and there are people who are like, I don't think I'm ready for coaching. I don't want that. I don't want to talk about my business. What advice, what is a good starting point for parents who maybe they're not ready for coaching, but want to benefit? They want a starting point to get away from all the overwhelm, from the confusion, from the resentment, the anger, the guilt, all of that stuff that's going on. Well, what would be the first step? What can they do today?
Yeah. So today I would say go to my website. And yeah, and I have resources on my website. But I would say go to Amazon, get my book, because there's lessons in my book that they can start doing. But like I said, it's not something that's going to change overnight. So somebody who's not ready for coaching yet, but thinks, I think I want it to change. My thing that I would tell you is give yourself 5 minutes every single day and start journaling. And just 5 minutes, because sitting down and writing something, and you can write anything. It doesn't even need to make sense. It can just be random thoughts that you're writing down for 5 minutes. But when you allow yourself the space to be able to do that and get all of those things out of your head and on a sheet of paper, that then you can begin to see where you really want to make change in your life, and what are things that are really showing up when you're sitting down to journal every day. Does the same thought keep coming up over and over again? Well, if it does, that's where your attention needs to go.
I love that. Journaling is such a powerful tool for every area of life.
Oh, so powerful.
5 minutes. We all have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I love that as a starting point. And then I will be sure to include the link to your website so that people can go there and get some free resources. And again, like Maureen said, please buy the book. If you feel, because you always know when we need help. We know deep down inside, you just might not have the courage to seek the help, but right. You're struggling. You know that things are not going how you want them to go. You're still in that angry phase, or you're feeling guilty. Well, now there's a reason why you're listening to this today. So take that first step. If you're not ready for coaching, at least grab the book, grab some free resources, and start journaling. Such a powerful tool, such a powerful tool. As you were speaking, I started to recall a friend of mine. So now he's the father, and the marriage broke down because of the child's illness. And I know we've been focusing more on the mothers in our conversation, but what advice would you have for fathers? And I know you work with parents. I don't know if you work with both parents, but I think that men deal with these kind of adversity differently to women. So what advice would you have for the men today, just to encourage them? Because the women are consumed by the child. And it's like, you don't care about us, or whatever the dynamics are. What would you say to others?
And, I would say my advice is actually quite similar, and meaning that for certainly, I think all of us feel like, men and women kind of approach things differently, but the foundation of that approach is exactly the same, meaning what I said before about it's emotions that are causing us to act in a certain way. And so those emotions are generated from thoughts that are going through our brain. And so the thoughts that men or dads have may be different than the thoughts that moms have, but it's really that work on thoughts that can help, because it foundationally is where change needs to happen in order for ultimately our results to be quite different. And so, a lot of times that dads, when the child is sick, that moms take on this, caregiver role. Yeah. And the dads are also being a caregiver, but their caregiver work is just different, meaning they know finances are troublesome for sick kids. So they put their head down and work hard to making sure that the finances are in line. And it is really, as moms and dads, it's taking a step back and realizing they're both working towards the same result. It's just they're going about it differently. And without good communication, that it will fail, because both parents have a load of stress that they're trying to deal with. And all of the emotions that we talked about, guilt, overwhelm, fear, all of these things are coming up for moms and dads. Like, it's both. And so all the lessons like journaling is just as important for a dad as it is for a mom.
Wow. Yeah. And I think a lot of women might argue, but fundamentally what you're saying is true. Both mom and dads are working towards a common goal, but just going about it differently. And communication at this point is very, very key. Everyone is stressed. Tempers are high. Everyone's on the edge because the focus is the child. You need to do this. You need to do that. But I think couples, now is the time to also be emotionally aware and be aware of how your behavior might be impacting the other person, and realize that you're on the same team working towards a common goal.
Right.
Else, a lot of marriages do break down because of the amount of stress they're going through.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So any final words you have for our listeners today? This has been an awesome conversation. And there've been lots of takeaways. And I really want to encourage everyone who's listening, if you need help, please reach out, go to Maureen's website, start getting the tools that you need to make your life better and fulfill your dreams. Final words, Maureen.
Yeah, I mean, I think my final word is that we all have the power to lead a honey life. And it is really deciding that that's what you want to do. And regardless of if your listener has a child or a chronically ill child, like, we all have that power to make our life amazing. And not only is it a gift, but it's a responsibility. And to make our lives amazing, like, if everybody in this world did that, like, can you imagine what this world would be like if every single person decided, you know what, I'm going to make my life even better than I have it today. And just that decision gets people started.
Absolutely. And I really hope that everyone listening today makes that decision to make their life better and make the world a better place.
Yes.
Thank you so
definitely.
much for being here with us today. And thank you to my listeners. I hope you got a lot of valuable information from today's session. And I want to encourage you to go out, get help, and live a fulfilled life. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for listening. I will see you all same time next week on I Rise Conversations with Joan.